Hello there everyone, this is Good Guy Palps, the organizer of Order 66, and today we're doing a light analysis on all of humankind's ancient era cultures. It's going to be a lot of fun, and should help us prepare for the game's release in August. Keep in mind this analysis is based on the most up-to-date information on the Humankind Wiki, which was updated after the closed beta. But the culture bonuses might be slightly different than when the game launches in August. First, I'll explain a bit about the Humankind game. If you're familiar with it already, feel free to skip ahead to the cultural overviews. The game is organized by eras. To start the game, all players begin in the Neolithic era as a nomadic tribe and can explore and claim territories by creating garrisons. Upon advancing to the subsequent era, each player chooses one civ to play as during that era. Currently, each era has 10 civs, and each civ has a few unique traits and bonuses, as well as belonging to a specific affinity or focus. Each affinity comes with an additional ability and directs your path to gain era stars. Here are the affinities. There are aesthete, agrarian, builders, expansionist, merchant, militarist, and scientist. The aesthete focuses on influence and diplomacy, agrarian focuses on empire growth and high population, builders focus on industry and building improvements or structures, expansionist obviously focuses on empire expansion, however not necessarily through war. Merchants focus on money and trade, militarists focus on waging and inciting wars, the scientists focus on science and research. If you're interested in another video that goes more into depth in those different affinities, comment below and let me know and I'm happy to do that. As you advance through the eras and create your own history, you accumulate fame, which is essentially your score in the game. Various feats, such as winning wars or building wonders, help increase fame, and the player with the most fame at the end of the game wins. Choosing the right civ or culture in each era to suit your gameplay and strategy will be vital to accumulating the most fame. In this video, we're going into your options during the Neolithic era and analyzing the 8 available cultures in the ancient era. We'll go ahead and start with the Neolithic era first. When the game commences in the Neolithic era, there we go, all players start as a nomadic tribe randomly spread out on the map. There are no unique bonuses, however, and the key success in this era is exploring and finding curiosities, which give you bonus resources, such as extra science or gold. Fighting wild animals or even enemy tribes can be beneficial as well. The main goal is establishing the right garrison in the right region to set you up for success in the next era so that you can found your capital in the best place. While you explore during this era, the Neolithic era, you should be analyzing your territory and land to decide which culture will be the best option in the ancient era. Don't take too long to advance though, because the cultures in each era are first come, first serve, and no duplicates are allowed, or at least they haven't been in the previous open devs and betas. So again, the keys: your tribe, you got to explore, and you got to find the right region. And once you get into the ancient era, you're going to pick a civ, and let's get into the options here. So here's each of the ancient era cultures with its respective bonuses and analysis in alphabetical order. Assyrians. Their culture is affinity, expansionist. Their trait is siege masters, which means they get +1 movement speed on land units. Their emblematic quarter is the Danu, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. It gets +10 district fortification, +1 strength combat strength, +1 combat strength in combat for units on or adjacent to the district. It's a land unit spawn, and it's fortified. Their unique unit is the Assyrian Raiders. They get extra gold when ransacking outposts and are ideal for hit-and-run tactics. They can't scale fortifications, however. So strategy: the extra movement will help you explore more and get more curiosities with that extra exploration. You will meet more of the other civilizations and also have extra movement. You might be able to use the expansionist trait to steal territories if you have close neighbors, but that requires influence. Using the raiders to pillage could hinder rivals' growth while enriching your own coffers, which would be a good strategy. In my analysis, I think the conquest and war in the ancient era is a little risky, so limited influence and stability makes it hard to grab lots of territories and hold them effectively in the early eras. The emblematic quarter won't be as effective as a spawning location, but could come in handy for defense. I see the Assyrians as a weaker option in the ancient era, but could come in handy if you know you have nearby aggressive neighbors. Their unique unit is dangerous and is probably their best ability, and should be used to pillage nearby civs garrisons to prevent them from claiming too much land while you get more gold. You can use them to ransack other civs' territories without automatically starting a war, however it won't help you make any friends either. Next up, Babylonians. Their culture affinity is scientist. Their trait is philosophers of the wilds, which means they get +2 science per tech researched on the capital. Their emblematic quarter is the astronomy house. It gets +1 food per researcher, +1 science per researcher, -10 stability, +3 science per adjacent food farmer's quarter, and +1 researcher slot on the city or outpost. Their emblematic unit is the Cebu Saikwasti, maybe? I'm butchering pronunciations. But it's a defensive unit who is great against cavalry and gets a bonus while standing on friendly extensions or districts. So the strategy here is to grow your population and get science. That's obviously what you want to focus on, is population and science with Babylon. Babylon's greatest strength is access to their emblematic quarter, which produces science way before other civs can build a science district. Combine that quarter with farmers' quarters and you'll grow your population while taking off with science. The additional researcher slot will be nice as your population grows, and the emblematic unit is great for defending your land from foreign invaders. Analysis: the Babylonians' bonuses might be my personal favorite, and maybe the best of the ancient era cultures. They should work well in a variety of maps and scenarios, and might propel you ahead of everyone else technologically for the rest of the game. Not to mention their unit is great for defense, making them hard to conquer or mess with early. They would probably be my default choice for any game, and they should work in pretty much every scenario. Next up, the Egyptians, another strong civilization. Their culture affinity is Builder. Their trait is Grand Planners. They get +1 industry on district producing industry, and they have a modified district industry cost of -10%. Their emblematic quarter is the Egyptian Pyramid. It receives +1 influence, +3 industry, -10 stability, +3 industry per adjacent industry maker's quarter, and +1 worker slot on city or outpost. Their emblematic unit is the Markabata. It's a ranged chariot unit that can move after attacking, making it harder for enemies to trap or run down, especially if they only have infantry, which is very common during the ancient era. So strategy with the Egyptians would be to build Egyptian pyramids quickly and improve production capability, as well as help generate more influence. With more influence, you can claim more territories, and with more territories, you can build more pyramids. Combining them with makers' quarters, possibly in future eras, depending on your stability, will make cities production powerhouses. The chariots will be effective for defense and chasing down enemy scouts that come too close. They might even be useful for raiding and ransacking enemy outposts as well, since chariots might have extra movement. Analysis here: I think the Egyptian pyramids are phenomenal. Similar in strength to the Babylonian astronomy house, the Egyptian pyramids focus on both production and influence generation, and influence is very important during the ancient era, as we saw in the most recently closed beta. I would build as many of them as possible, knowing I can surround them with makers' quarters later for maximum benefit. Their extra influence generation is a nice perk as well. The extra builder slot is situationally good, but not that big of a bonus in my opinion. The chariots are solid for defense, but would still need some infantry, preferably spearmen, to protect them in larger battles or larger threats. And in my opinion, the Egyptians are a solid choice for the ancient era. Next up, the Harapans. Their culture orientation is agrarian, focusing on growth. Their trait is Fertile Inundations, receives +1 food on district producing food, and +1 food on river. Their emblematic quarter is the Canal Network, which receives -10 stability, but +1 food on neighbor producing food, and +1 farmer slots at your outpost. And it's considered a river tile, so that's going to team up with their trait, giving +1 food on rivers quite nicely. Their emblematic unit is the Runner, which generates money when collecting curiosities, and it replaces the normal scout unit, so they have a lot of movement and can scout quite a bit. Strategy: this civ is pretty straightforward: growing the population and exploring. Settle near rivers if possible, and use the emblematic quarter to generate lots and lots of food. The runners replace the hunters, so managing to get a few tribesmen during the Neolithic era will be extra beneficial because they automatically become your unique runner unit in the ancient era. Use them to explore a lot and find as many curiosities as possible. Play a peaceful era if you can, and try to rush forced labor to quickly complete city projects and wonders by converting population into instant production. Analysis: the Harapans are a good civilization in the ancient era. Their bonuses are straightforward, and currently all early agrarians mixed with forced labor are exceptional. At least they were during the closed beta. I expect that to be nerfed slightly when the game releases in August. If you have lots of rivers near your capital, though, picking the Harapans is a no-brainer. But they can be effective without lots of rivers around the capital due to their emblematic quarter, acting as a river tile as well. Stacking the unique district with other farmers' quarters will generate tons of excess food, so maintaining a high population could be key. Agrarian civs are meant to help your cities get to a near max capacity before advancing to the next era, so that you can focus on different culture affinity in the next era. Not to mention, with high population, you can use the forced labor, which again was very, very powerful during the previous scenarios that they let us play. Now on to the Hittites. Our first militarist civilization is they have the culture affinity militarist. Their trait is Lust for War, which is +1 combat strength in all units. Pretty well rounded and a pretty good bonus. That is good in all situations. Their emblematic quarter is the Awari, or Awari, I'm not sure how to say that. Automatically upgrades regular to an outpost, can be used as a land unit spawn point for neighbor cities, and it is fortified. The emblematic unit is the Geiger, maybe? Heavy cavalry. Fast, hard-hitting mounted unit able to charge enemies, receives bonus combat strength, +3 strength specifically if attacking non-adjacent enemies. So if you move around and flank people, you'll get extra combat strength. Unable to climb fortifications. It does have the suppression ability, however, and the targeted unit can either move or attack the next turn, but not both. So essentially, if you attack someone, they'll be able to either attack you back, or they'll have to move and they won't be able to attack, which is pretty strong. Honestly, that might be the strongest unit we've seen so far. Strategy here with the Hittites: war. The Hittites are meant for war. It's really pretty straightforward, and they should be used to grow the empire through aggressive negotiations. Using the unique units to conquer territories and force civs to capitulate to you early in game is probably the best strategy for the Hittites. If you can get some early vassals, that would be very beneficial, giving you lots and lots of gold. Analysis here: I think they're going to be super strong in war, but weak and unspecial in pretty much every other category. Their emblematic district is similar to the Assyrian Danu, and it's really just isn't that special. Those forts are nice for forward spawning units, but aren't near as helpful as districts that improve the city's yields, not to mention that's not near as effective during the ancient era to spawn units forward when you only have 1 or 2 territories. If you're the Hittites, the clear goal is war, but you must win that war early or it's going to set you back. Early war is always risky in 4X games, but the Hittites are well built to win those wars and maybe force an early vassalage. Of course, their trait of +1 combat strength is nice and applies to all of their units, which will make them much harder to resist for other civs. They are a little one-dimensional, though, I think, but they are very strong. Mycenaeans. Their culture affinity is also militarist. Their trait is brutal upbringing. It modifies the unit industry cost by -25%, so all units are going to be 25% cheaper if you're using production to construct them. You need to get +25% on creating a unit on city or outpost, and that 25% bonus experience means that Mycenaean units can perceive +1 veterancy level from the start, which will grant a unit +1 combat strength, which is a really, really good help. Emblematic quarter is the Cyclopean Fortress. It receives +2 combat strength in combat for units on or adjacent to the district. It gets +5 district fortification, +5 district fortification on neighbor, and +5 stability. It is a land unit spawn. It is fortified. And it increases the movement point cost of tiles within a range of 1 for hostile armies. So it restricts your enemy's movement. That's pretty good. Their emblematic unit is the Promachoi. It's stronger. It gets specifically +4 strength when attacking during the first round, so quick battles. Strategy here: similar to the Hittites, the Mycenaeans are designed for invasion. This can only mean one thing: invasion. Lower unit cost combined with free and increased XP means construct as many units as you can early to win an advantage over any neighboring civ, especially using the armies to crush and conquer your neighbors. The unique unit may be used to quickly dispatch smaller armies in early battles because of that +4 combat strength on the first round. You want to win those battles quick. Blitzkrieg, right, with the Mycenaeans. Analysis: if you want to use the early war to strengthen your empire during the ancient era, the Mycenaeans are the best option in my opinion. Again, their emblematic quarter is better for defense than for actually waging war, which, that's just not that beneficial. And the production is better spent on units or more productive districts, right? That's actually going to help your empire advance. The right way to play the Civ early is to be a dick. Build up an army worthy of Mordor and attack your neighbors. The unique unit's ability is nice for early battles, and the unit is still effective in longer battles as well. Personally, I would only choose the Mycenaeans if I knew I had neighbors who were close enough to engage in a meaningful war. They are really good at war, maybe the best in the ancient era, but they're still one-dimensional, and you're going to have to, I think, conquer people just to keep pace with everyone else. With some of the more peaceful Sim-Civs, for example, the Nubians. Their culture affinity is merchant. Their trait is Golden Dreams, which means they get +4 money on luxury resource deposits and +4 money on strategic resource deposits, which is really, really good. Their emblematic quarter is the Moreau Pyramids. It receives +2 industry, +2 money, and +3 money per adjacent industry maker's quarter, and +1 Slater slot on city or outpost. Their emblematic unit is the Taiseti Archers, and those archers can shoot above or around obstacles without penalties, which is really good, especially in the ancient era. Strategy with the Nubians is going to be focusing on getting early resources and trading them if possible. Don't hesitate to buy more resources for their benefit as well, since they can be sold to neighbors as well. But focus as much as possible on getting resource deposits down. That means that you're probably going to have to rush the calendar and bronze working researches as early as possible, depending on which resources are available to you. Obviously, settle your capital near resources if you can. When you aren't building resources deposits, get the Nubian pyramids because they are a really, really good emblematic quarter. Analysis here, I think the Nubians are another great civ, though whether or not they are great depends on the map and your first city circumstances. If you have multiple early game resources near your capital, especially horses or bronze, and luxury resources specifically, the Nubians will kick ass. Focusing on resources first while building the Nubian pyramids for extra money and production is a solid strategy. The extra gold can be used for anything, including more trade or buying armies quickly in case of a covetous army is threatening war, trying to invade to steal your resources. Combining the Nubian pyramids with the adjacent makers' quarters as you're able to, right, as you continue to grow and help and get the necessary stability, it's going to increase your wealth. They may struggle to grow their population early, since they're going to be focused on money and production. That might weaken their ability to get troops early and defend themselves, or to take advantage of the forced labor ability, but their money and production boosts, I think, are going to pay off nicely in other ways. Their archers are solid for defense, maybe the best defensive unit in the ancient era. And technically they could work for some early aggression as well, if you need to, if the opportunity arises. Their ability to shoot over the obstacles is better than one might think initially. I played them in the closed beta, and I was able to defend myself pretty nicely, and I was able to counterattack some early Hittite aggression from the AI. And you can watch that video on my channel as well, so check that out. Next up we have the Olmecs. The Olmecs culture affinity as aesthete. The trait is natural harmony, +1 influence on territory. The emblematic quarter is the Olmec head, which receives +2 influence, +3 food, +1 influence per adjacent food farmer's quarter, and -10 stability, and the normal +1 farmer slot on city or outposts. Their emblematic unit is the javelin throwers, who have the ambusher trait, which means they get +4 strength on difficult terrain tiles. Strategy for the Olmecs: focusing on generating influence and claiming as many territories as you can manage with your city's stability. Build the Olmec heads as soon as possible, and then build farmers' quarters around them to generate even more influence. Again, claim territories as fast as possible. The javelin throwers can be used for defense, especially well if you have lots of difficult terrain tiles. Ideally, avoid war with the Olmecs, and play as peacefully as you can and expand and claim as many territories as you can. The more territories you hold, the more influence you're going to generate because of their trait. Analysis here for the Olmecs. Sim baby sim. They probably have the weakest unique unit of the ancient era. It can be effective if you have enough difficult terrain tiles, but that's debatable. They do, however, have a very strong trait and emblematic quarter. The Olmecs would be an ideal choice if you know you lack close neighbors or know the threat of early war is minimal. Building that Olmec head early is critical in my opinion and is their best strength. Unlike the militaristic civs who have weak emblematic quarters, the Olmec head is really, really good. Don't forget to build the heads in every territory that you attach to a city and attach them to as many farmers' quarters as possible based on the terrain. Managing stability could become a problem, and rushing techs to unlock infrastructure projects that increase stability might be worth it. Production is another issue, but with enough population you can always use forced labor unless it gets nerfed. Next up we have the Phoenicians. Their culture affinity is merchant, just like the Nubians. Their trait is trading pioneers, which modifies all constructibles money buyout cost by 20%, which is pretty solid. That's a pretty good trade. Their emblematic quarter is the Haven. It receives +2 money per adjacent coastal water and +2 money per adjacent lake. And you get +1 trader slot on city or outpost, -10 stability. It replaces the harbor, it's a naval unit spawn, and it allows units to embark without any movement penalty when they're embarking on the harbor or the Haven. The emblematic unit is the Bireme. It has the navigator, which means it's a navigator class of ship, which means it's damaged by consecutive turns spent in deep water. It is a ship unique unit, the only one of the ancient era. Strategy with the Phoenicians is get to the seas, really. It's going to be trying to enrich yourself while trying to grow and claim as many coastal and island territories as you can. You're going to have to research fishing and sailing so you can claim as many island and coastal territories as possible. Get your harbors online as well to generate as much money as possible. The harbor is the only bonus they get to generate more money, and it's really a necessity to take advantage of their trade ability. Obviously improving your resources, especially luxury resources that you have in order to generate even more money. Analysis here for the Phoenicians. I think they're a weaker option in general, but for certain spawns or maps they might be a god tier culture. They're going to be it's very debatable based off the terrain, right, that you're at. If it's a coastal map or something, they might be really good. The extra gold from harbors is nice, but they're locked by the fishing tech, so unlocking and then building them isn't the #1 priority. Use the money generated by them to fill in where your cities are going to be lacking in infrastructure or other districts, or other troops getting online, or even building ships. The 20% discount is big and will add up, and it is probably their best bonus, but it's simply not as strong as some of the other Civs bonuses, in my opinion. If for some reason there is an option for effective early sea-based warfare, the Phoenicians would be a great choice. However, we'll see based off the maps that come out in the launch of the game. So far in the previous betas, even maps they wanted to have more naval warfare, it really didn't always make sense to focus on naval battles and naval fleets. Last up of the Ancient Era, we have the Zou. Their culture affinity is Aesthete. Their trait is Harmonious Thought, which receives +2 stability on district. Their emblematic quarter is the Confucian School, +3 stability, +1 science, and +5 science per adjacent mountain. And to be honest, I was surprised that it's Aesthete. You would think they should be a science focus, and maybe that was an error on the wiki page, but we will see when the game launches. Their emblematic unit is the Zanche, which is a heavy cavalry unit. It has the Mandate of Heaven ability, which means bonus combat strength, specifically +3 combat strength, when stability in your cities is high. Strategy with them, it's going to be settle near mountains if you can, and build the emblematic quarter like the Olmecs, the Zou are for pretty much peaceful simming, in my opinion. Maintaining war means you have to maintain stability, and that can be difficult, especially in war situations. And like I said before, the Zou actually seem a lot like a scientific culture rather than an aesthete civ. But if you can settle near mountains, that's really, really good. They have really good bonuses. If you manage to be near those mountains, I would consider them a powerhouse civ. However, the dependency on those to really excel makes them much harder to play effectively. Kind of similar to the Phoenicians with coast and islands and stuff. Their emblematic quarter is their strongest bonus. Its potential is a significant amount of science, and the +3 stability should mean that it only actually brings down stability by 5 instead of 10 from a normal district. The unique district can be phenomenal for generating immense amounts of early science, but the capital's location is important. +2 stability on districts really just means -8 instead of -10, which means 5 districts built would have the identical effect on stability as 4 districts for other cultures, which basically means you can build more districts, at least a little bit, maybe 1 more district per 4 of the other cultures would be able to build without having with an equal stability cost. Their unique units are good and could be used for defense or conquest, but maintaining that high stability is vital for their effectiveness and making them have an edge over enemy units during the Ancient Era, making it, I think the Zou would be undoubtedly really fun to play, but harder to probably play them very effectively. It's going to depend a lot on a lot of circumstances and basic situations. All right, so now that we've gone over all of the ancient era cultures, I've ranked them based off kind of just my thoughts and analysis on them. It's the way too early ranking, seeing that the game hasn't even launched yet, and I haven't been able to even play all of them yet, but I'm really excited to. So ranking them has been very difficult, and since each one depends heavily on your gameplay and strategy and terrain for that game, again, it's difficult, but here's what I've come up with so far. Ancient Era cultures ranked. Number 1, we have the Babylonians, who are good, I think, in all situations. Same thing with number 2, the Egyptians. 3, the Olmecs, 4 Harapans, 5 Hittites, 6 Nubians, 7 Assyrians, 8 the Zou, 9 the Mycenaeans, and 10 the Phoenicians. Having only played the beta and open dev scenarios, my rankings have a bias towards what civs can do for setting up in the future, and trying to be successful planning long term. I know some would argue that warmongering civs are always the best since they can take anything that the other civs create, and that's true. So I guess it just depends on your approach, your strategy, and your playstyle and your gameplay. To be honest, each of these civs feel really strong and OP in certain situations, so I don't think there's really a wrong choice with any of them. But again, it's going to depend heavily on your terrain and just the situation in your game. I don't consider any of them super weak, and that I would never choose them. Looking at you, Georgia in Civilization 6. Never chose her. Sorry. Again, some of this could change when the game launches in August, but for now, let me know by commenting below what you think about the cultures in these rankings. Which culture is your favorite for the Ancient Era? Which strategies did you like best in the betas? Which culture affinity is the best for the early game? Who did you play as during the closed beta if you got to play? And who are you looking forward to play most when the game comes out in August? And great. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. As always, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit all the buttons, really, and have a phenomenal day. Thanks for watching. I'm Good Guy Palps, and I'll see you in the next one.